Welcome into the Early Edge NFL Pick Show, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. I'm Claudia, here with RJ White in the Florida studios. We have Will Brinson, Larry Hartstein coming in to hang out with us. Week 4, guys, it's flown by. Just quick vibe check before we get into Thursday Night Football, and we'll run through the whole slate. RJ, how we feeling?
Feeling good, having a good start to the season, although have to talk about some few bad beats, that Rams field goal block, the Denver field goal block the week before. So hasn't been perfect, but I think a pretty solid season so far.
Larry, how you doing?
Oh, feeling good because my money line on the Niners came through. Was smart to play that on the money line and not the spread. That wasn't a safety. The holding was at the 3-yard line, and it hurt me in the contest where I laid the 2.5 with the Niners. But coming off a solid week. But again, I'm feeling for Will. I'm feeling for anyone who had the Rams.
Will?
Yeah. I said there was going to be chaos. Loved the underdogs last week. We ended up getting a lot of chaos, one of the wildest witching hours in that 1 p.m. window late. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of my best bet, the Rams. Bad week in the contest, and it was some surprising dogs that came through, not the ones that I thought might be frisky.
Hey, at least Falcons, nobody's best bet, right? At least we didn't do that. Let's move on to Thursday Night Football, the rest of the Week 4 slate. Seahawks, Cardinals. This line flipped, and I agree with the market movement here. Seahawks, a 1.5 favorite now on the road. Cardinals coming off a loss to Mac Jones and the Niners. Seahawks coming off that spanking, although it was the Saints. It was a 31-point win. RJ, you and I talked a bit off camera before this show on your approach to this game. Tell our friends.
Yeah, I'm going with the under 43.5. I like it. Seattle's defense has not allowed more than 17 points. They're first in points per drive. They are getting healthier despite the short week. We know that Witherspoon's back, Love's back. So that's big for that defense. They should play well. On the other side, Arizona's defense has been excellent for most of 3 games. They had that one problem stretch in Carolina where they lost all their cornerbacks at the same time, and Carolina scored some points. But 2 pretty good defenses up against each other. I know that Seahawks game got out of hand. They had 104 net yards, and it was 28-3. So it's not like the offense was firing on all cylinders at that point. Had a lot of short fields, took advantage of some special teams. So I think there's going to be points at a premium here. I love the under 43.5.
Yeah, and those Seahawks defensive injuries were huge the last few weeks. Devin Witherspoon coming back, secondary much cleaner heading into this one. Not the case for the Cardinals. They have some guys questionable popping up on the injury report. Larry, you like Torrey Horton, the Seahawks rookie wide receiver, to go over on a receiving yards number that's low at 22 in the hook.
Yeah, it's low. It's rising fast because this guy was a steal in the 5th round. He would have gone a lot higher, but he got injured his senior year. Sam Darnold has a 117 passer rating when targeting Horton. He was involved on 76% of the routes last week. They are just raving about him. Kubiak loves him. They threw it to him in a one-on-one situation last week, which I really love to see, and he made the catch for a touchdown. I think the arrow is pointing straight up on Torrey Horton.
All right, and Will.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I've got that Torrey Horton over. I put that in my article for today and on SportsLine as well. I agree with Larry in that one. If you look at the snap count and the routes run, looks like a good spot for him. I'm on the Seahawks money line. I'm a little nervous that it seems so obvious. I think Seattle's just a better team. As RJ points out, the offense, this is not some behemoth offense. And they were up against a hapless Saints team. But I just think Seattle's the better team. I'd probably take them on the money line because I do think this could end up being a close, low-scoring game.
Yeah, I gave out Seahawks yesterday on CBS HQ. I'm giving them out again today. Like I said, injuries much better for the Seahawks. Cardinals dealing with defensive injuries, but also offensive injuries. James Conner obviously out for the season. Zay Jones is banged up. And then on the offensive line, Paris Johnson Jr. is questionable at left tackle. You have Evan Brown at left guard, also questionable. And Kyler Murray has played well enough for them, but he also hasn't really faced pressure. And I think he's going to with the Seattle front just outside the top 5, I should say, in pressure rate. And I don't necessarily love betting on Sam Darnold, as RJ brought up, in prime time, but he's playing well, people. He's 16-4 over the last 2 seasons. That's the second best quarterback record. Completion high, for career high, I should say, completion percentage, 9 yards an attempt. So I do like the Seahawks here. All right, that is just tonight's game, but we have the rest of the Week 4 slate coming up on the Early Edge after this. Time to run through the Sunday slate, the 1 p.m. games, the early games, starting with the Vikings and the Steelers. Vikings laying 2.5 on the road, total at 41. This one in Dublin, Ireland. I was about to do an accent, but I can't do one, so I'm not going to. First game in Ireland. That's anybody? Accent? Are we going to try? RJ?
Not a chance.
Larry? Okay.
I think Will's your guy.
That's a Blarney Stone. That is Brady Quinn. He's the greatest football quarterback in Notre Dame history.
Perfect. Like I said, first ever game in Ireland. This did open mini at 1, made it to 3, now settled down at 2.5. Carson Wentz and this Viking squad, I don't know how much we can expect. Like, can we expect another basically 50 burger like they put on the Bengals? Is that offense going to regress? And then, as we know, the Steelers took down the Patriots. Will, with your wonderful accent, I'll send it to you first. You're going with the first half under.
Yeah, I think this is one of those spots where, and by the way, this is a big deal for the Steelers in this game in terms of the franchise. I think that ownership, they were the ambassadors to Ireland. The Rooneys were for a while. I would think that they would express the importance to the franchise of trying to win this game and generate. I think like they're the official team for Ireland as well. I don't know, just some nuggets there for you. I like the Vikings a little bit more. I think what we see is first international game of the year, 2 teams making a trip, playing in a spot that is largely unfamiliar, and just sort of some slow out of the gate. The Steelers are struggling to run the ball. I think they'll dump it off to Jalen Moore in a bunch early in this game. And then the Vikings, in my opinion, are going to try and use Jordan Mason like they used him last week, pound him with the football, not force Carson Wentz into some unnecessary spots early on. I like the full game under a little bit, but I just worry sometimes these international games, it's like they wake up at halftime because it's a reasonable Eastern time and get going. So I like the first half under 20.5.
Larry, I'll go to you next. I know you're taking a side here, and I have to agree with you. We're getting right under that key number. Clearly some resistance on the 3, but the Vikings are the better team. Are they not, even with Carson Wentz?
They are definitely the better team, especially with Carson Wentz and Jordan Mason running the show. I mean, Mike Tomlin and the voodoo is in full effect so far. +5 in fumble recoveries already this season. They got 5 turnovers against the Patriots, who completely outplayed them in every other stat. Aaron Rodgers, 6 of 22 this year under pressure. They can't run the ball. Less than 3 yards per carry. He's going to see a lot of pressure from Brian Flores. And his last 2 overseas trips did not go well. Lost against the Giants with the Packers in 22. And then he lost with the Jets when he went overseas. 0-2, 0-2 ATS. Let's make it 0-3.
All right, like I said, I am with you. And if I were to take the Steelers, I would do what RJ is doing, throw them in a teaser. Not a ton of trips to the red zone, but they are 7 of 8 when they do make it there. Could be tougher, though, in this environment in Ireland. Tell us about why you're teasing the Steelers here, RJ.
Yeah, the line moved 4 points. It was Pittsburgh -1.5 on the look ahead. So I'm always suspicious about such a big line move when it's not tied to a significant injury. I know the Steelers defense is beat up, and that got exposed a little bit by New England despite the fumbles. So we'll see how they look. There have been 15 games in Europe since the start of 2021. Only 3 of them have been decided by more than 8 points. All of them involve Jacksonville. 2 of them were last year. It just seems like this is going to be a lower scoring game to me, like Will is hinting with the first half. And I want to have those 8.5 points, teasing them up through the 3 and the 7. So going to be part of my teaser with the Chiefs. I went looking for some information on this field. They're playing, I think it's called Croke Field or Croaky Field. No pro football there. Typically when the college games are played, it's in a different stadium. I do believe the field quality is going to be pretty good, though. They host a lot of big events there, a lot of big sporting events there. So I think the field quality is probably going to be top notch. Get some longer field goals in this game, 2 very good field goal kickers. And I think that 2.5 might come into play. I think we might see a 2-point game here. So I would lean to the Steelers at the +2.5, but love teasing it up.
Yeah, you mentioned it, the defensive injuries. They got 4 guys questionable on that Steelers defense. And we look at the Vikings defense, they're really doing their job. So the offense is doing their job. The defense is showing a ton of pressure, the highest rate in the NFL. Over 40% of opposing quarterback dropbacks, they are getting pressure on them. So I think that's not good news for Rodgers, who's facing a lot of pressure, Will.
Yeah, and I was going to say, too, I think Rodgers had 3 interceptions the last time he faced Brian Flores' defense, obviously with the Jets, so different situation to a degree. But, I mean, this is not a comfort spot for Aaron Rodgers, I don't think.
And that's why I'm also doing Rodgers interception. I gave that out yesterday. I'm +106, one of the highest turnover-worthy rates as well. All right. Did I get to everybody? Remind me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Titans, Texans. Texans laying 7, divisional battle. Both teams looking for their first win. Titans, the latest victim of the Colts, I'm calling it. Brian Callahan fighting for his job, giving up play calling duties. Very curious what you guys think about that move. Cam Ward, ankle limited in practice this week. And then the Texans really, they're mostly healthy, just struggling to find offense. Larry, let's go to you first. Quick thoughts on Brian Callahan giving up the play calling duties and how you think that affects this squad.
Well, he shouldn't have a job anymore after what happened again last week before the half. When the team website calls you out and saying the offensive operation is a mess, you take a delay of game on a 57-yard field goal, get the 62-yarder blocked, and then Indianapolis scores. I mean, it was absolutely absurd. They ran the ball 5 straight times down 17-6, not even trying to get closer than the 40-yard line. And they took a delay of game after 2 timeouts. I mean, he should be gone. And on the other side, the Texans, you think, oh yeah, an 0-3 team should not be laying 7 to anyone. I bet RJ might even say that later in this segment, but the Texans could be 3-0. I mean, let's remember, they were driving against the Rams with a chance to win. They fumbled. They were driving with a tie game under 4 minutes, and Nico Collins fumbles against the Jags, and they lose on the last play of the game to the Bucs. So this team is not that far away, and Tennessee is not a functional team right now. I would lay it with Houston.
RJ, you do have a lean on the Titans with the points.
Yeah, it's not that an 0-3 team shouldn't be favored by 7. It's that this offense should not be favored by 7. This is the worst offense in the league, last place in terms of points. I played under 40 as soon as it came out. I said, we're not going to get a better number than this. I got to play this under right now. 38.5 is still a lean. I didn't want to play it for this one. So I'll just take the Titans and what I think is going to be a lower scoring game. Points are more valuable in games with lower totals. So its spread of 7 is more significant than if this total was 43, 45, somewhere in that range. Tennessee also may be getting healthier on the offensive line. We'll see how Latham progresses. We'll see if Kevin Zeitler is back. I know you mentioned the Ward injury. Expect him to play. Obviously, if that changes, that could be a big change in what I would play here. I do expect Houston to win. I think that if you want to play like that 1-6 band where it's like plus 300 that they win, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game where they win by 3 or 4 instead of 7.
Yeah, you mentioned the offensive line injuries and then also just laying 7 is too big of a number. I do think the Texans have a slight edge. I really don't trust Cam Ward, especially behind a banged up O-line. So I would tease, if anything, or I'd absolutely run away from this game. So Texans teaser, and I'll give you guys a few options as we run through this slate. Will has the Titans plus 7 with a throw up emoji and Nico Collins anytime touchdown.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the YouTube show, right? Producer Ben can get my vomit emoji. Look, I had the Titans last week in the Circa Millions. I mean, Brian Callahan is just committing coaching malpractice right now. I do think it's a good thing to get the play calling duties out of his hands. 1, because he's not calling very good games, and then 2, when you become a first, when you transition from being an offensive coordinator to a head coach, and I realize he's been there 2 years, so should have figured it out. But when you're operating in both of those capacities, you need to be good at both of those things if you're doing it, because you can't be making the basic mistakes that he's making in game if you're trying to call plays as well. He's just doing both badly right now. The Nico Collins TD, anytime touchdown that hit last week, the reason I'm throwing that out there too, and I know it doesn't really jibe with the Titans plus 7, but Jarius Sneed, did you see this interview with him? He's asked about Nico Collins, and his only response was, Who? Twice. Who's calling out Nico Collins? What's the point of that? Nico Collins is going to score. He's going to have a lot of yards in this game. I lean towards the Titans, but it is a gross spot. Tennessee, Houston, the first team in 40 years to allow 55 or less points and start 0-3. I think they find a way to win, but it's a close one.
Just quick question, looking at the Titans schedule. So they got the Texans, then the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Patriots. It's not a world-beating schedule. How many games did you guys give Brian Callahan? Will, is there a number on it?
What was their buy? I just don't have it in front of me. What their buy is? What week? Is it a later buy? I
think it's a later buy. Yeah.
I think if they're 0-7. There's a decent chance that the ownership will pull the plug for sure.
Yeah. Larry, RJ, you guys have any strong?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the quality of the losses too. If you're playing the Raiders and you're getting blown out the building, then I think
that's what
you got to make a decision at that point because that's just unexcusable at that point.
Yeah, and
you got an over/under.
Yeah, I mean, you're just getting Cam Ward sacked, way too often. He's the
Highest rate.
future of the franchise, and I agree with RJ that it definitely could come midseason.
Yeah,
Right.
week 10 is their bye. If they get to week 10 and Cam Ward is getting sacked 3 times a game, is banged up,
Five
isn't
times.
progressing, 5 times a game, whatever, and they're like 2-8 or like 2-7, then I think you're probably looking at a situation where he's gone at the bye.
And the problem is that sounds all too possible. So
Yeah.
sorry, BC. All right, Commanders, Falcons. Commanders laying the point total at 45. And this spread did get as high as 2.5, so settled back down a bit. I'm seeing lots of Falcons here, actually Falcons across the board. So RJ, let's go to you first. You're taking the point.
Yeah, I was hoping to get to 3, so I waited. And of course, it came crashing down. We'll see if Daniels is able to play here, but this is a good bounce back spot for the Falcons. I didn't think the Panthers game was as bad as the final score indicated. I'm not going to make excuses for him. It was very bad. Michael Penix playing outdoors is something we got to keep an eye on moving forward, but he's in the friendly confines here against a Washington defense that maybe isn't that scary. Speaking of scary Terry going to be out for this game. McLaurin not playing. I feel like it should be a pick 'em if he's out, even if Daniels is playing. And if Daniels isn't playing, I think Falcons probably slightly favored. So I'm taking the Falcons with a +1.
You make a really good point because the game was not as bad as that final score showed. It was embarrassing, but they kept the time of possession close. They won the yards battle. They averaged 5 yards a play, half the penalties, 0 sacks allowed. So if you're really digging into the numbers, the 0 is disgusting. But the rest of it, I mean, they just have to get out of their own way. So I would say teasing the Falcons is really the only angle for me. I don't know if 1 is enough, but it is for you, Will.
Yeah, look, I believe this is a revenge game for the Falcons against Marcus Mariota. Didn't he walk out on them? Am I remembering that right? He walked out of the team. Revenge spot for the Falcons against the entire organization. Arthur Blank all the way down to the water boy against Marcus Mariota if he's forced to play. I think the Falcons are they got embarrassed. They had that Sunday night game where they dominated, on defense, and then they just got humiliated by the Panthers. Penix is being asked, Raheem Morris is being asked about Penix's job, said it's not an issue. I think there's a lot of motivation there to have Penix play well here, and think you can get maybe a Darnell Mooney game or a Drake London game. Drake London kind of been MIA this season against this Washington defense. I think Atlanta gets right in this spot. I like the Falcons quite a bit.
And Larry, I know you do as well. Just quickly for anybody that doesn't know, Jaden Daniels says that he feels good enough to go, but it's going to be up to the doctors. Terry McLaurin still questionable, and then Bill Krosky-Merritt also questionable, but sounds like he'll be a go. Larry.
Yeah, don't expect McLaurin to be out there, and Jaden Daniels probably would be limited if he was out there, and his mobility is what makes him so special. And the Falcons defense, there's nothing wrong with that defense. 4.3 yards per play allowed. That is the third fewest. Only Cleveland and Green Bay are better. So the defense is fine. The offense will bounce back, and historically there are so many trends. So many systems that say, betting off a pretty decent team coming off a shutout loss, their first shutout in 4 years, they're embarrassed, they're coming home. Everything points to the Falcons, and the money has been going that way.
And we see that graphic up there with Bijan Robinson, most consecutive games with 100-plus scrimmage yards. I know I'm all over his rushing plus receiving pretty much every week since he's been in the league. We'll get to the prop show. That's tomorrow. I don't know what time. I think it's 1 p.m., but I'll let you know. All right, moving on to the Saints and the Bills. Biggest on the board line here. Bills laying 16 total at 48. The 0-3 Saints, the 3-0 Bills. There's a million things we could say about how good and how bad. Larry, how would you start this one off when it comes to the approach and a big number?
Well, the Bills' defense has not been that kind of a lockdown defense, but the offense, 34 points per game, 30 points or more in 12 of their last 14. Incredible at home. Josh Allen with 7 TDs and no turnovers. They're running the ball. They're doing everything. I'm going to play their team total, but only in the first half, over 16.5. I think they can easily get to 17 against this Saints defense, traveling a long road trip for the second straight week. I just think it sets up well, and I don't want to trust them late because if it is, 30-0 or 30-3, they may not want to go over that 31.5.
Yeah, backdoor cover is also always possible when it comes to laying 16, which I like. We all found different ways to bet the heavy favorite. And Will, you're going with the first half prop.
Yeah, I'll just take the first Bills minus 9.5 in the first half. I like the Bills in the game, kind of quite like I want to like them a lot. The issue is it's a full week because they played on Thursday. We're a full week removed. Ed Oliver, Matt Milano not back at practice, and I think if you're in a situation where the Bills are up like 30-10 in the fourth quarter, Sean McDermott's going to pull his starters. He doesn't want anybody else to get injured. I mean, they are looking around the AFC. And yeah, the Chargers are good, but the Chiefs, one of the Chiefs and the Ravens is going to be 1-3. Like that bye is there for the Bills taking right now. And so I think they are going to be very forward looking and not worry about making a statement in the second half here. That's just what worries me about the full total game. As Larry noted, this is the Raiders traveling to Las Vegas last week on that short week across the country was the worst travel spot of the year. This is the second worst for the Saints. I mean, I'm not a geography major, but I'm pretty sure Seattle and Buffalo are not close to each other, right? Like that's as far as you can go. Almost as far as you can go. Maybe like Miami and Seattle in terms of traveling in the NFL. This is a really bad spot for the Saints. I think the Bills jump all over them, but I am worried about the back door.
All right, Will going first half. RJ is going to take it a step further and go first quarter.
Yeah, I'm going to cash mine a little earlier than you guys because I'm going to take minus 3.5 in the first quarter, minus 118 at BetMGM. The Bills have scored at least 7 points in all three of their first quarters so far, with only one team also matching them with the 7. Saints have yet to score a point in the first quarter. Kellen Moore is not getting this team ready to go and scoring points early, and they're always having to play from behind, significantly so last week. And even if the special teams is better, I think that Buffalo offense is going to go and get the 7. At best, the Saints are going to get 3, and we're going to cover this 3.5. So I think the Bills on extra rest come out firing offensively, and like you said, maybe resting people later in the game. So of course, can't play that big number late in the game. It's something you have to maybe look at live if you're going to think about playing the full game spread and just get a feel for where the game is once you get to like halftime or into the third quarter at some point.
We'll call this the exposure game because we're giving you bets throughout the entirety of it. And I'm going to just go a step further than Larry's team total and just go with the full game team total for the Bills at 31 in the hook. They've cashed it all 3 weeks, and I know they keep moving the number up, but we just saw Sam Darnold and the Seahawks put 44 on him. Mac Jones put up 26 on him, so I'm not too worried about it. Lots of ways to bet the Bills there. After the break, we're going to continue the Sunday slate breakdown. See you in a sec. Back here in the early age, we got Larry, Will, RJ, and I'm Claudia Bellofatto. Great to meet you guys. Browns, Lions. Lions laying 9.5, total 44.5. And Lions, of course, coming off that big win over the Ravens, but that was a sweat down the stretch. Lots of mistakes on the Ravens side. Browns picked up their first win over the Packers, but it did take a walk-off field goal. Again, a big number here with 9.5. RJ, how do you approach it?
Yeah, we played at 8.5 first thing Monday on SportsLine. Figured it was going to rise, especially if Detroit looked well going against Baltimore, and they did. Lions climbing up. We see 10s now. I think 9.5 are still available, so I like the Lions minus 9.5 if you can get it. I'd make the game 11, so maybe a little bit of value still on the 10, but such a key number there that once you get to 10, you have to worry about that. I'm not worried about backdoor covers with this Cleveland offense, how we've seen them play these first 3 weeks. A lot of these big numbers, you worry about a backdoor cover. I would trust the Saints more to cover a backdoor number right now than I would Cleveland. In this game could feature Dylan Gabriel if it gets out of hand. We've seen them already do that before. And if he's the quarterback, I definitely don't like them to move the ball and score some touchdowns. So Judkins played well as a lead back, but Detroit's defense has been strong against the run. I think they can get a lead. They can extend the lead, and the Browns aren't going to score many points in this game. So I like taking the Lions, but try to get it under the 10.
Yeah, it's tough to bet this Browns offense in general because, Larry, I see you're going on Judkins over attempts. You would look at the game script and say, are they going to have the opportunity? But they don't really have enough talent on the offense to not give him the ball. Tell us why you're going over.
Well, I mean, he's clearly the best player on that offense and probably the best rookie running back. He's averaging 5.5 yards a carry, 4.3 yards after contact. Goes for 18 and 94 and a touchdown against the Packers. And he just totally took over the backfield. Jerome Ford got 4 targets, but no carries. So this is his backfield now. And yes, we have to keep the game script relatively close. But, with the fact that the Lions got 7 sacks on Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco is such a statue. They are not going to want to drop him back 40 to 45 times. They are going to give Judkins the ball. I think even down 10, they're still going to give him the ball until it gets out of hand. And they're going to build around this kid because he's definitely the most talented guy they have on offense.
Yeah, catching some passes out of the backfield as well. I'm sure we'll see that tick up a bit. Will, with all of this said, big number, you don't care. You're laying the 9.5.
No, I love the Lions this week. I think, what we saw in week 1 against the Packers, that was an outlier. Packers defense, very good. Lions didn't show up. They heard all the chatter, and they promptly have started laying the thunder down on people. Offensively, they look fantastic. Got that offensive line cooking. Jared Goff playing well. They're back at home. And, you look at the team total, and the Lions team total here is like 27.5. I mean, that's a really high team total, for against the defense that's supposed to be great. The Browns are coming off of their sort of Super Bowl, right? You beat the Packers at home. Everybody goes nuts. Great upset, crazy ending. I think the Lions, with that Packers loss to the Browns, the Lions see this as one, you got to, if it comes down to common opponents, you have an opportunity to win one against a bad AFC team that you didn't think the Packers would lose to. Lions are now like 2-1 to win the division. They're right back in it. And I don't see Dan Campbell letting his foot off the gas the way maybe a Buffalo would. And as RJ pointed out, Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel, not the guys to storm through the back door. I think the Lions get up double digits by half and pull away in the second half as well.
We see it with the graphic here is just how good they have been. And I know we mentioned that against the run. And it's not like they were facing schlubs. Like Derrick Henry struggled. They only put up 2 yards a rush with the Ravens there, 45 total. The highest opponents have put up on them so far is the Packers with 81. Of course, you have a 2-headed monster with Montgomery and Gibbs with the Lions. Are you guys worried at all? Or you think it's fine because Detroit can throw the ball as well? Will?
I think Detroit comes out passing early and often to set up the run. I mean, they're like they've showed. I mean, I think we talked about it before the season, right? And even after week 1, maybe it was a question. The coordinator changes. Yeah, like you lost some talented coordinators, but I don't think it's that huge of a deal right now. I think it might even be a wash. And these guys are smart enough to come out, throw the ball early, and then force the Browns to back up. And all of a sudden you can run the ball more easily when you've got that lead. I don't really care what their end yards per carry number is. I think they pass the ball a ton early and win by a significant margin.
Okay. Any other thoughts, or shall we move on to Panthers Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I am worried. We saw what the Packers did to them. Another good defense, but if Detroit only scores 17 like they did in that game, 17-6 is still a cover. The Detroit defense is pretty good too. We saw what they did to Derrick Henry last week, so I think it's going to be a coming out party for the Lions defense here. Okay,
and line to 10 as we see here. Larry, parting words.
I don't think it's going to be a coming out party for the Lions offense against this defense. I mean, this is a totally different animal. You ran through the Ravens, who were missing their defensive line. Now you're facing a team that has stopped everyone so far. And yes, they've been pathetic on offense, but this is not going to be easy for Jared Goff or those running backs.
Okay, we shall see. Panthers, Patriots, not as exciting here. Patriots laying 5.5, total at 43. Panthers obviously coming off that massive win over the Falcons, despite Bryce Young not throwing a single touchdown. Did run for one, though. Patriots coming off that loss to the Steelers cannot get out of their own way. Larry, and you are taking my New England Patriots, laying the 5.5.
Yeah, it has to turn at some point. They dominated the box score. And on the other hand, you have Carolina that was just super, super fortunate. And you have a team coming off of a looks like dominant shutout win. But this is a bad team. This is a team that was down 23-3, 27-3 in the fourth quarter of their first 2 games. And then the Falcons, had a lot of problems holding on to the ball. So I think this is the week where it does come together for the Patriots. Just take care of the ball.
The fumbles. 4 fumbles lost. I mean, like you said, the box score, everything else works for them. They had 20 plays more, had the ball for 7 minutes more. They just need to get out of their own way. So we're split here. Me, Larry, Will, all in the Patriots. RJ, tell us why you like the Panthers here.
Yeah, I had the Patriots in the contest last week. You mentioned those fumbles. I just looked at this number 5.5, laying 5.5 with a team that has not played well this season. I couldn't do it. Not even at home, not even against a bad Panthers team. I think the line probably should be 4.5. Now, 4.5 to 5.5. 5 is a dead number, so it's not that big of a difference. We often see when spreads move, they move quickly once you get over 4, and they speed up to 6 pretty quickly, and vice versa. But, New England gave up just 203 yards versus Pittsburgh, done in by that fumble luck, like you said. I just don't think they played well enough to be laying 5.5 points in this matchup with the Carolina team that, I wanted to fade coming off that win, a surprising win. You figured you would get a good number to fade them. The market just isn't giving us that with this number. So I would take it. I would, like I said, 4.5, but I don't love the Panthers here.
Okay, well.
Yeah, look, I was on the Patriots last week too in the contest and watched a lot of that game. They had 2 fumbles inside the 1-yard line. That is hard to do. Or 2 turnovers, excuse me. Drake May had a pick and Ramondre Stevenson had a fumble. I would expect we don't see much of Ramondre Stevenson in this one. I think it's a Travion Henderson breakout game. Love his props. Think he could get up like 100+ rushing receiving total when it's all said and done. I think he explodes against the Panthers. And, look, Bryce Young away from home, you see the numbers, 1-14. I mean, that is unbelievably bad. And I just don't see the Panthers doing much on offense here. They didn't do much on offense against the Falcons. Patriots run defense, very good. I think New England wins by a touchdown plus.
Yeah, I've been saying it really since the season started. Why are you not giving Travion Henderson the ball more? I don't understand why. Hopefully they do here. I think another big edge for the Patriots is the Panthers having the lowest pressure rate in the NFL. They can't really stop the run. So regardless of what the Patriots do and who they give the ball to in the backfield, I think they'll excel there. And then shout out to the Patriots front because they are putting the pressure on the quarterbacks, one of the highest quarterback hit rates so far. If you can win in the trenches, if neither of your offenses are that great, you can probably win the game. I don't like 5.5, but I lean laying it.
And
all right, Charger.
Excuse me, Claudia. And if Christian Gonzalez comes back, which he is finally expected to, with that front that the Patriots have, that's going to make it really tough on Bryce Young. But as bad as Bryce Young has been on the road, 1-14, the Patriots are 3-16 straight up in their last 19 home games, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, that is hard to believe. Harold Landry on that front was tied with Myles Garrett for the most sacks heading into last week. So, yeah, shout out to them. Patriots, we have defense, kind of. Chargers laying 6.5 at the Giants, total 44. Chargers coming off completing that sweep of the AFC West. Giants, meanwhile, coming off another loss and really could have beat the Chiefs if Russell Wilson threw 2 touchdowns instead of 2 picks, but he didn't. Everybody's chanting for Jackson Dart. The people got what they wanted. He is the brand new starter for the rest of the season. There was no question when Brian Daboll was asked. What was your reaction to that, Will?
I think this is a no-brainer move by the Giants. Like you're risking your job. We saw that pathetic fourth down stuff. Goal line stuff for the Giants in that. At the end of the game, and Russ tries to run the read option and basically it looked like me chasing my kid around the house. I tripped over his feet and fell forwards. Jackson Dart's really mobile. He's really aggressive. I'm a huge Jackson Dart fan. So I think it's a great move. I actually flipped. I flipped to Giants after the move. Sorry, Ben, I screwed you up there. I was going to lay it with the Chargers if they ran Russ back out there, but I think Jackson Dart gives him enough juice where, Jesse Minter's defense is a problem for sure. But I do think the Chargers are sort of riding a little too high, coming in here, 1 o'clock, sleepy kickoff. Brian Daboll has all the reason, his job, his financial security, his livelihood, to make Jackson Dart look good. If Jackson Dart looks good, if they beat the Chargers, I think you can safely say that Brian Daboll saves his job for the year. I think we see a bunch of read option, a bunch of RPOs. I think they get Dart out on the move. You need Malik Neighbors to be in there, but I like the Giants catching the points here with Dart under center.
I see Larry with a sneaky smile over there, and I think I know why you're going under on the Giants team total. Not as much faith in Jackson Dart?
Yeah, I love Jackson Dart. It's definitely the right move, but Malik Neighbors landed hard on that shoulder. It's very painful. Did not practice on Wednesday. Didn't give the usual player speak that sounded like he was going to go. And if he does go, could re-injure that very quickly. And I just love Jesse Minter's defense. They've allowed only 25% of the red zone possessions to be converted into touchdowns. And we know the Giants specialize in settling for field goals and not getting in the end zone. So I love this under 19.5 because the Chargers are going to run the ball. That's how you attack this Giants team. You don't want to let that pass rush get to Justin Herbert. They're going to have a run-heavy game script. Get out of there with a win in the neighborhood of 20-17, 23-17, and the Giants stay under their total.
RJ, I may be wrong, but I assume you're somewhere in the middle because you're leaning the Giants with the points in the first half.
Yeah, and this isn't tied to the Chargers going out east. I'll push back on Will a little bit here. We talked about this a bit in the SportsLine Discord earlier this week. So if you're not subscribed to SportsLine, go subscribe there. We do a lot of these breakdowns here in the chat and answer a bunch of questions there. But Justin Herbert's actually played pretty well in the Eastern time zone in his career. So I'm not worried about that offense. What I am worried about is the Chargers defense, not knowing what to expect from a Jackson Dart offense. Because as you said, Dave Ball's coaching for his job here. He's got to pull out all the stops in this game. So I think it's going to take a half for them to digest what they see here from this new look offense with Jackson Dart under center, and then maybe they have more success in the second half. So I like the Giants plus 3.5 in the first half. I think it'll be a little bit tighter game. We saw it was even a 3-point game against the Chiefs at halftime because the Chiefs offense didn't do much against this defense until Russell Wilson made it clear that he was not going to do anything to put up any opposition in that game. And I think 31 other quarterbacks in this league might have covered that number. And of course, number 32 was Russell Wilson. So I think it's going to be a close game early.
Yeah, I think it may be as well, which is why, if anything, I would just tease the Chargers down with some of those legs I mentioned. Falcons could be an option for you just because I don't trust them fully. I trust their passing game. It's been one of the most productive. I don't trust their running game. They really haven't had anything going for them there. But I do think that this is a defense in the Giants that hasn't really been able to stop the run. So maybe this is a game where they could break out there. Giants front, I am a little bit worried about Bobby Okereke leading the league in tackles. Brian Burns tied for the second most sacks. That's going to be difficult, but they have faced some difficult fronts already. So for that reason, I like the Chargers. I don't love them. I would tease them down to a pick 'em. Eagles, Bucs. Eagles laying 3.5. That sneaky hook there. Bucs, though, all banged up. Injuries head to toe. Baker Mayfield limited this week with a bicep. No Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, probable participant on Wednesday, but no left tackle, still in Tristan Wirfs. Second string right tackle, Charlie Heek is now banged up. Defensive injuries all over the place. I mean, maybe you could argue the Eagles should be a bigger favorite, RJ, but we haven't seen any really explosiveness from the offense.
Well, Wirfs might be back for this game. We think Godwin's going to be back. Those are two big pieces for them to get back, even with Evans out. We had Eagles as a look-ahead play at -2.5 on this show last week. Got a good number. Part of that was through the Evans injury, but I think it would have been 3 regardless. The Eagles also have plenty of injuries. People will focus on the Buccaneers injuries, but the Eagles have a bunch of people banged up, especially on defense. Put Nolan Smith on IR. I believe that Jacorian Bennett is also either on IR or definitely ruled out for this game. So there will be opportunity for Tampa Bay to score points. They do have weapons. Feature Cade Otton more in this game, along with Igbuka, Sterling Shepard, and hopefully Chris Godwin. And the Eagles have not really looked like the Eagles of last year for most of the season. They did catch up in that Rams game when they were down big. They opened up the offense a bit more. Doesn't really seem like what they want to do to go to that level as we saw in the first 2 weeks. So I think they want to keep it more conservative. I think it'll be a lower scoring game for them, and I really like the Buccaneers to cover that 3.5 number.
Yeah, AJ Brown finally actually saw the ball. Larry, I know you're on the same side here with RJ, and the Bucs, you could argue, should have had an easy win over the Jets, but then they gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter. You're getting that hook here with the 3.5. Tell us why you like it.
Well, Nick Sirianni is 1-4 against the Bucs, and I do think they're going to go back to that run-first approach, which is not going to work too well against the Buccaneers. It's not going to be as efficient because they have Vita Vea, because they shut down the run and allow less than 4 yards a carry. And, Baker Mayfield, I don't care what he's listed with. He's going to play. He's going to play great in the fourth quarter. So even if we're down 10, we can get the backdoor cover. I will join RJ on the Bucs.
I will say I think it's going to be close. The hook scares me. Does it scare you, Will?
No, I think that they're trying to entice these squares, RJ and Larry, into taking that hook. Look, Baker Mayfield's been awesome this year. You saw the graphic, first team in NFL history to win on the final play or final minute of the fourth quarter with a game-winning score in their first 3 games of the season. The Buccaneers they're just gamers, and Baker's a gamer. The Mike Evans thing hurt. Chris Godwin back is massive. Wirfs is the biggest deal. If Wirfs is back, that's a problem. Here's the thing, though. Larry, I think the opposite, or at least I'd like to think the opposite. I think the Eagles saw what happened when they opened up the offense last week, and they realized what the Buccaneers do on defense, which is stop the run. I think they come out throwing the ball, try to get up, and then let Saquon Barkley get downhill, and that's really how you can pull away and cover that 3 and a hook. So I'm going to take the Eagles here. Like if Baker does some Baker stuff in the fourth quarter, I'm terrified, but I like the Eagles.
Yeah, and when I tossed you guys off the top, I said they haven't been explosive. Last week was really the first game. First 2 weeks, they were not at all. There's no argument there. But like I said, A.J. Brown finally got 100+. Jalen Hurts, no interceptions, the 3 touchdowns. So I'm a little worried about the hook, but I would still lay the 3.5. So I agree with Will there. We got the Sunday 4 p.m. slate coming up on the early edge right after this. 4 p.m. slate. We've got the Colts. We've got the Rams. Rams at home laying 3.5. Total at 49.5. This open 47. We're seeing some 50s. You guys know who I'm going to first with this. Rams hurt a lot of us this past week. Nobody more, though, than Will Brinson.
Yeah, just brutal, man. After it's like, oh, it's going to be chaos. And yeah, the chaos in my face. I was laughing because Larry was grinning, knowing that I was taking the Rams. And yeah, I'm going right back to the Rams. Here's the thing about the Colts. They've been awesome this year. Colts have been awesome. I think the Colts are going to hang around. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're real. The Indiana Jones thing is not a farce, but this is a really good Rams defense that can stop the run. They held Saquon Barkley under 3 yards per carry in that game last week. I think they can do the same thing against Jonathan Taylor. And the one thing we haven't seen the Colts have been front runners for most of the season. Now, they were down a little bit in the first half and then again in the fourth quarter against the Broncos. But Bo Nix tried to get that game back to him, right? I think you see the Rams get up early and a real change in what the Colts have to do. Put the game on. Maybe Indiana Jones. Maybe we get the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the bomb, the one box office flub that comes around, from Indiana Jones in the first 4 weeks of the season, right? I think this is the one where you have to put it all on Daniel Jones to come back against a Rams team that will come out angry after that loss last week. And I don't think it works well for the Colts. I think the Rams win this one running away.
Yeah, up by 12 in that first half. I thought they were good to go, and then you give up 26 points in the second. How do you even do that? Colts, meanwhile, and Larry, we'll go to you because I know you like the over here. Colts were the league leaders before Monday Night Football in points per game. Daniel Jones, the league leader in QBR, top 5 completion percentage, over 9 yards of play, top 10 defense. But is this really just a product of who they have faced, and this is the real big opponent?
Well, they put a 473 against the Denver Broncos, which is a very good defense. They lead the league in yards per play at 6.6, and they've only allowed 2 sacks all season, which will help them against this Rams pass rush. And Will, sidebar, I admire you for not only going back to the well with the Rams, but the spread is 3.5, and that didn't give you any trauma because the spread last week was also 3.5, although it was the other
It did, Larry. It did.
Sorry,
he likes pain, Larry.
Yeah, I'm a masochist, man.
So I believe in the Colts offense to do what they've been doing, and I like the Rams matchup too because I don't think the Colts secondary can stop Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. I think the Colts are going to be an over team all season, but this one is definitely on the move. I would get it now because 50 is a key number and 51 is even more key.
All right, RJ, you're going opposite thoughts here with the Colts team total under.
Yeah, the Colts might be an over team for most of the season, but I don't know about this matchup. You talk about that Denver game. They had to settle for a lot of field goals in that game. So even though they did move the ball pretty successfully there, they were kicking a lot of field goals. I don't know that that's going to do it against this Rams team with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. Rams D was excellent for 5 halves prior to that meltdown that you talked about against the Eagles that involved 2 block kicks. I trust them here. I think that the Colts are pretty much at peak value at this point. I would love to play the Rams here, but I would want to get the 3. I don't want to play the 3.5. So I like the Colts team total under 23.5. I don't think they get to 24 in this game, especially if they are settling for field goals like they did against Denver.
Okay, well, like Will, I'm a masochist, and I would also lay the 3.5 because I feel like this is the real big test for the Colts, and they've been really fun to watch. But I just think the Rams, again, are going to come in a little pissed off after last week, and they just have more talent on both sides of the ball. RJ, I'm going to swing it back to you for this Jags-Niners matchup. Niners laying the 3, no hook here. Somehow, people, they haven't lost a game despite nobody being healthy. They do have Christian McCaffrey, which is really the funny part of it all. He's healthy. Nobody else is. No Brock Purdy. Now, Mac Jones is day-to-day with a PCL sprain, and that's not good. He has to play because their third stringer, Curtis Rourke, is already out. He's coming off an ACL surgery, so it might have to be me or RJ out there. Despite all of that, you're going to lay the 3, RJ.
Yeah, I laid it at 3 when it was available at 3. I think it's 3.5 in a lot of places now. I think it will be Brock Purdy in this game. It seemed like he was getting closer to play. So that's part of it. Ricky Pearsall not practicing on Wednesday is obviously a concern. They do get DeMarcus Robinson back. He was suspended for the first 3 games, just like Jordan Addison. That should be a somewhat of a lift, probably not like a massive lift. It's not like getting Brandon Ayuk back, but it's something for a team that's been, getting by with Kendrick Bourne and Marquez Valdez-Scantling at wide receivers. So I think he can make a difference here in this game as well. The Bosa injury is brutal, but they do have a really good pass rusher in Bryce Huff that they brought in this offseason. That can be the number 1 pass rusher on this team. And I believe in Robert Saleh and what he's done with this defense to make them into a competitive unit. That's pretty much why I'm putting my faith in the Niners at 3. I don't love it at 3.5. So if you miss the 3, it's probably going to be a stay away from me, maybe something you bet live. But definitely keep an eye on the injury report. Make sure it's Purdy in this game. Make sure we're getting at least 1 or 2 receivers in this game. And DeMarcus Robinson doesn't have to do it all by himself.
Well, your take on the under, is that more because of the defenses or less confidence in the offense, or maybe
it's more because I looked at the board and I was like, why the hell is this 47? Like, the Niners would love to grind out a game and come away with a win like they have been doing all season without anybody else getting hurt. The Jaguars defense is pretty good. I think it's better than people thought it would be. And right now, offensively, they're just not explosive. Brian Thomas, I don't know if it's his head, his wrist, whatever it is, he's dropping everything. Now, maybe I'm dead ass wrong, and this is the Brian Thomas is back game. And look, for my fantasy purposes, I mean, I hope that I'm okay with that a little bit. I just don't see why. I feel like this line should be like 44, 44 and a half, somewhere in the 45 range, not 47. That feels way too high for me. For a Jaguars team that hasn't shown any real competence on offense, and a Niners team that I think would be perfectly fine winning 17-10.
All right, Larry, you think it's a lean on the Jags for you, so not 100% on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, San Francisco's won 3 games by a combined 10 points. And like if RJ is spending, 30 seconds to a minute on DeMarcus Robinson, then that they're pretty thin at receiver right now without Kittle. Doesn't look like Jennings. We'll see about Pearsall. The Bosa injury was huge, and questions about the quarterback position. And Trevor Lawrence, yeah, he's been bad, but he's also been victimized by 13 drops. 17% of his passes have been dropped. Or potential completion. So that has got to turn around at some point. I just think that a team that can rush for over 5 yards a carry, like the Jags have done so far, is equipped to go in there and lose by 3 or less.
Yeah, I think the Jags can win this game. And I always go back to the trenches because that's where the game is won. But Trevor Lawrence is not facing pressure. He's facing the lowest pressure rate in the NFL. And I know the Niners have talent on the front, but they're really not generating pressure. So I think that the Jags have an edge there. And then also when it comes to the running game, they've been one of the best at stopping the run. So you take away the one weapon on the Niners side and Christian McCaffrey, I think they can keep this close and maybe win because they've had a strong running game themselves. I don't necessarily trust Trevor Lawrence 100% with his arm, but I think they can get a balanced game going. They can definitely cover the 3 and possibly win this one outright. Ravens, Chiefs. Here's a one we really want to talk about. Ravens laying 2.5. Under that key number of 3, total at 48.5. Crazy to say one of these teams is going to be 1-3 after week 4. Ravens, of course, 2 heartbreaking losses, really. The Bills for sure, and then the Lions just boneheaded mistakes. And then the Chiefs finally took care of business, but it was over the Giants. So how much do you really take that into consideration, RJ?
Yeah, you look at this game and you want to play the Ravens at 2.5, right? Because you just say they are very, very good. They're one of the best teams. They're a Super Bowl contender. but their defense ranks 29th in EPA per play. They got beat up by Josh Allen through the air. They got beat up by Detroit on the ground. I don't know that I trust this defense very much against a Kansas City offense that still does have Patrick Mahomes, that now has Tyquan Thornton kind of emerging a little bit in that offense, and that might get Xavier Worthy back this week, because I believe he was a full practice on Wednesday. And if he's tracking to come back, that's kind of dangerous against this Baltimore defense that has not played well and is unlikely to get Madubuike back. I think they've already said they don't expect him back. Kyle Van Noy probably out this week. I think the Chiefs offense plays well enough in this game to win, and the Chiefs defense can cause a little bit of trouble to a Baltimore offense that hasn't looked great at times. Derrick Henry has not been able to get going the last 2 games. So I think the Chiefs win this game. I'm teasing it up to plus 8.5, because why not, with how the Ravens have been playing these close games and not blowing teams out unless they're Joe Flacco, in the friendly confines. And even that was pretty a low scoring game up until late. So I like the teaser here. Tease them with the Steelers, both up to plus 8.5.
Okay, Larry, and you're a lean on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree with RJ that the first gut instinct is to look at the Ravens, the more talented team. But then you look at what's happened and the 7 sacks they gave up, and Rosengarten getting beaten badly for 2.5 sacks in that game against the Lions. I think there's a lot of warning signs, and plus the status of their defensive line. The Chiefs don't run the ball against anyone, but if ever they could get the running game going, it's this week against the Ravens, who are giving up about 150 on the ground, and you have all that speed outside with Worthy hopefully coming back. So I like the Chiefs side, especially if you can get a 3.
Okay, and I am alone here on the Ravens. So Will, finish it off. Tell us why you like the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about if Xavier Worthy can come back. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be a full go for this game. I mean, if you're Kansas City, you're 1-2. Things have gone about as poorly as you could possibly expect. You lost to the Chargers, of course. You got kind of handled by the Eagles, but you took care of it. Those are like the Chargers and the Eagles are 2 of the best teams in football. The Ravens are really good too, but as we point out, the defense isn't going to work. This is a game where you bring Xavier Worthy back and you play him full, because you need to get this win. And you have Rashee Rice returning fully healthy, from suspension on the horizon, when that offense can maybe take off a little bit. I think RJ's spot on. Tyquan Thornton he looks like a player, man. I don't know how Andy Reid does it, but Tyquan Thornton looks good. And Mahomes, dog at home. It's give me Mahomes as a dog, and this is the same sort of spot we thought it was with the Eagles, but the Ravens don't have that same defense. I like the Chiefs just to win this one outright.
Yeah, I wish the Ravens had a healthy roster. That would be nice. I understand, though, why there's been resistance, I think, here with the Chiefs. If anything, I'd probably tease the Chiefs up. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. I think it's a really good bounce back spot for the Ravens. And I think if they were really a fumble away from beating a good Lions squad and he was sacked 7 times, you take away some of those mistakes. You look at that Chiefs win, too. Yes, they beat the Giants, but it's not like the box score was wildly different. It wasn't pretty. They averaged just as many yards per play. Mahomes was sacked a few times. They had 8 penalties, just 4 red zone touchdowns this season overall. So I think if Baltimore's injury report is any better, then yeah, I'm definitely going to lay the 2.5. But like you said, everybody and their mother probably looks at that number and says, only laying 2.5? The Chiefs suck, don't they? But Xavier Worthy coming back is going to be huge for them. It's probably a stay away for me. Bears-Raiders. Bears laying the single point. Total at 48. We have seen some over money here. The total moved about 1.5 points. Larry, let's go to you first. You're going with a Raiders team total.
Yeah, Geno Smith playing indoors has gone over his team total 13 out of 16 times. Now, one of the exceptions did come earlier this year against the Chargers, but I am not putting this Bears defense in that category at all. And I think Pete Carroll finally is going to realize you cannot give the ball to Ashton Genty on early downs when he's averaging 3 yards a carry, and that against this Bears secondary, still no Kyler Gordon at practice. You have to attack them via the pass. Their one good offensive game, let's say, was when Geno threw for 365 against the Patriots. I think they come out throwing and they take advantage of this Bears secondary and they get to 24 points.
Yeah, well, they definitely do have those chunk plays, but also he does throw a lot of picks. I don't really love the O-line. Which way do you lean here?
Yeah, I'm on the Raiders here. I think, to Larry's point, we could get a good Geno game here. The Bears looked awesome against the Cowboys. But you know what? Everybody's going to look awesome against the Cowboys. Russell Wilson looked awesome against the Cowboys. I think this is a spot where the market is maybe buying a little too much in how Caleb Williams looked and how he played against a Swiss cheese defense. I know the Raiders aren't an elite defense by any stretch, but I do think that this game could turn into a bit of a shootout, maybe a sneaky, high-scoring affair. And I think the Raiders just find a way to get it done at home.
RJ?
Yeah, I lean the Raiders. It's a good spot to fade Chicago for me coming off impressive win. Benefited from 4 Dallas turnovers in scoring range, and I don't think the Vegas pass defense is quite as bad as Dallas's. They got run on by Washington, but Chicago's run offense has been pretty awful. Look ahead line in this game was Vegas -1.5. Worst I can make this game is pick 'em, and that's essentially what it is. We have +1, -1 on there. If you just depends on which book you have, you're going to see the juice opposite ways. It's essentially a pick 'em, so it's probably going to be a stay away for me. I do think this is a good spot to fade Chicago, though, like I said. So if anything, I'm going to be on the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm not trying to overreact to the Caleb Williams. I mean, it was the best game of his career so far in the NFL, so I'm not going to overreact from a one-game sample size, especially with the defense he was facing. But I do think for them to get that win, not really having a ground game at all, DeAndre Swift hasn't done much. If they can get something going against this Raiders defense, which I do think they can on the ground, get some sort of balance going, and just try to pick off Geno, force him to make mistakes. He's getting hit at the 4th highest rate. And I do have some sort of faith in this Bears defense to at least get a little bit of pressure. That says, I think, more about the O-line than anything for the Raiders. So again, it's kind of a gross game. I want nothing to do with it, but I'm going to lean with the Bears. Up next, we got Sunday Night Football and a Monday night doubleheader after this. Back here on the early edge, Packers laying 7 on Sunday Night Football against the aforementioned Cowboys and their crappy defense. 47.5 under money. Total dropped about 1.5 points. Larry, you're going with a prop here.
We finally saw Matthew Golden get involved last week when he had 4 catches, 52 yards. He had a 34-yard catch, and now this is the absolute dream matchup. I mean, we saw the Bears receivers with 5 to 7 yards of separation behind that Cowboys secondary. I know Deron Bland is practicing, might return this week. Diggs is not practicing so far. We'll see what happens. Either way, Golden is going to be featured in this matchup. It was interesting to see all the ways that they were giving him the ball. They gave him some short passes. They gave him some jet sweeps. I would actually prefer rushing and receiving, but it wasn't out at the time of this broadcast, so I'm sticking to receiving for this play. But he can get this on one play. I mean, he is the deep threat. He is the fastest guy. There's still no Reed, still no Christian Watson. I like Matthew Golden to finally live up to that first-round billing.
Will, you went with a total play. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really like this spread all that much. And by the way, I agree with Larry on Matthew Golden. I think you could ladder him up to like 100 yards. And this, I mean, this defense is terrible.
Oh, no,
like,
I know.
It is the worst.
100's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he get there on 2 plays, right? If you really want to get spicy, parlay it with his under catches for a little reverse correlation, and we go just print and go to Cabo. But I think the Packers have good history going into Dallas. There's obviously all the Micah Parsons stuff. No CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens is a great 2. He's not a number 1. And Micah Parsons is going to come out, with his hair on fire, especially after being embarrassed by the Browns. They were looking ahead for this game. It's Sunday Night Football. I think the Packers defense shows up and shuts down the Cowboys, and you see just a lot of Josh Jacobs and the Packers running the ball in the second half, and we get this under there, even if there's kind of a spurt of scoring early on in this game.
RJ, assuming you echo a lot of that, going with the Cowboys team total under.
Yeah, I took the Packers -5.5 early in the week. The line figured to rise, even if Lamb was able to play, which we know he's not. It's hard to see Dallas scoring more than 20 without him. They only did it against the Giants defense, and the Packers defense might be the best in football. Playing the Dallas team total under means not relying on the banged up Green Bay offensive line to score points. Still get the Parsons revenge angle because he's not going to want to let them score a ton of points either. So I think playing Cowboys team total under 20.5 is the way to go for me. I just don't see them having offense offensive success in this game.
Yeah, I agree with everything there. I think the Packers can cover this. I don't really have any faith in the Cowboys, especially with how banged up they are. And it's really, again, a team in the Packers that just need to get out of their own way. Ugly loss to Cleveland, but they dominated the time possession. Jordan Love was sacked 5 times. And this is an O-line that was one of the best last season, supposed to be one of the better ones this season. They didn't get anything going on the ground, double-digit penalties with 14. Again, get out of your own way, which they should be able to against this Cowboys squad. Jets-Dolphins, Monday night doubleheader, the first of it. Dolphins laying 2.5, total of 45, an AFC East battle of 0-3 teams. Do we have any faith, again, in a head coach, Mike McDaniel, who may be losing his job if they don't win this game, Larry?
I have faith in the offense that finally seemed to get some rhythm against Buffalo, even though it was a lot of short throws. I was impressed with the way that Tua was avoiding the pressure, getting rid of the ball fast. Now you're facing a Jets defense that has just collapsed. 93 points allowed. They lost Quincy Williams, the linebacker. They lost his backup who came in after him. And Steve Wilkes, to me, he should be on the hot seat in this game more than anyone because the Jets have defensive talent, but it hasn't shown up in any week yet. And Tampa Bay over their team total was a play I talked about last week, which came through. And this one with extra rest, time to prepare, home game, desperate home team. I'm going Dolphins over 23.5.
All right, RJ, you're going with a total over.
Yeah, I'm going over the 45 just in general. Jets defense is probably my most disappointing unit on this season. They do have talent, but they have played terribly. Each opponent these teams have played has scored at least 29 points in each game. So it's an awful start for both these defenses. Jets now without Quincy Williams. Storm Duck seems unlikely to be back for the Dolphins. Both offenses have had their moments. Hopefully we'll get Justin Fields back for this game. But even if we don't, I think this game goes way over 45. This is the inverse of that 0-3 battle we saw with Texans Titans. That game, I don't think there's going to be points. This one, I feel like it's going to soar over 50 here.
Well,
yeah, I'll take the Dolphins here. By the way, Justin Fields, I think right before we came on, back at practice on Thursday, looking like he might be able to go. I don't know that that's a good thing for the Jets. He was great in that revenge game against the Steelers. And by the way, how about Baker Mayfield? I can't believe I missed that revenge game against Steve Wilkes. He called it out afterwards, the guy who fired him. But yeah, I think the Dolphins, to his arm, looks like trash, but he is making some good decisions, getting the ball out quickly. Tyreek Hill starting to come around a little bit. I think the Dolphins can get plenty of points here and come away with a cover at home. Desperate team.
Yeah, I want the 3. Maybe I would tease up the Jets, but I just don't think Miami has looked good enough. I think Tua is also just too turnover-worthy prone, one of the highest rates of turnover-worthy throws. And again, they're both 0-3 teams. It's a divisional battle. I just think it's going to be close. I, of course, don't like 2.5 because that really doesn't do much for me. But I think it was sort of impressive in an ugly way to be able to keep it within 2 and lose on a walk-off field goal against the Bucs when they played so horribly. So maybe if some things can go their way here against the Dolphins make a few mistakes, they could cover. All right, Monday Night Football, the second of the doubleheader, the Bengals, the Broncos laying 7.5, total at 44. RJ, will go to you first. Lean on the Bengals.
Yeah, lean on the Bengals first half at plus 4.5. I don't think Jake Browning is as bad as he looked last week. We've seen him in the past be pretty good in this offense. Denver's defense has not been as elite as we expected. It's certainly not played as well as they did last year when you think about that Colts game and their other games that they played. I do see potential for the Cincy passing attack in this game. The full game spread seems about right to me, but Denver hasn't led by more than 1 at the break in any of these games. So I'm going to take Browning to have a solid start here. Keep this game relatively close. I like plus 4.5 in the first half.
All right. And the rest of us are on the Broncos in a few different ways. Larry, how are you taking them?
I just think they're going to take out their frustration. I mean, heartbreaking loss at Indy, heartbreaking loss to their division rival, the Chargers. And now they're coming home where they've won their last 6 games by an average of 19.8 points per game. That includes the 8-point win over Tennessee. So they've been absolutely dominant at home, especially early in the season. And yeah, I think Jake Browning is going to play better. He's got to play better, but the Bengals cannot run the ball at all. They've committed 8 turnovers. There's going to be an opportunity to capitalize on some of those mistakes, and they pull away and win by 10.
Well,
yeah, this is Sean Payton is a vindictive, spiteful man. And I say that as a compliment, right? And I think, I don't know if he's anybody to get after here, but he probably feels a little miffed that Bo Nix hasn't looked as good as he did last year so far this season. And you could not ask for a better spot than Monday Night Football. And by the way, we don't need these two games on Monday night, okay? NFL schedule makers, like toss one of these on Sunday at 1 o'clock. All right, we don't need both of these on Monday night. But I think this is a big Bo Nix game, big Cortland Sutton game. Bengals can't stop anybody's. Larry point out, Chase Brown is top 10 in the NFL in rushing attempts and is averaging 2.3 yards per carry or something like that. They cannot run the ball. I think Jamar Chase will do a little bit here, but the Broncos pull away, cover the 7.5, and win pretty handily at home in prime time.
I think they could. Again, if you're scared of going over 7 with that hook, you could tease the Broncos down. I did that with the Texans. It's their defense. They have the highest quarterback hit rate. They have the most sacks. And Jake Browning, I don't agree. I don't really think he's going to do any better. He's already tied for the most interceptions, and he's only played 2 games. He's happy to throw the ball, but it doesn't always get to his players. So I would tease the Broncos down just because I'm soft and I don't want to lay the 7.5. Did we get through everyone? Yeah, we're good there, right? All right. Up next, we've got records, and then we say goodbye. Records and best bets, I should say. We wouldn't just tell you our records and leave, but let's take a look. RJ, 1-2 overall, 1-2 overall, 1-2 overall. Oh, wait, I'm 2-1 overall. Okay. I can't really see the graphic, to be honest, and I didn't realize I was, but we love that for me. Let's go with Will. Shocker. He's on the Rams this week.
Yeah, look, I mean, I should be 2-1. There's no way the Rams – I mean, they didn't cover, so it's possible, but there's no reason the Rams should have covered last week. I do think they cover this week. I know the hook is maybe a little bit scary to people. Doesn't bother me at all. Think that they manhandle the Colts, forcing Indiana Jones into becoming Danny Dimes, throwing the ball a ton in the second half, create some turnovers, create some havoc, run away with the game late, and Rams by double digits. Pretty easy victory, pretty easy cover.
All right, Larry going with Judkins over attempts.
Yeah, I think the Browns defense will do enough to keep this respectable to allow Judkins, who took over the backfield last week with 18 carries, nobody else really getting any handoffs, to go over 13.5 rush attempts. He's the best player on that offense. They do not want Joe Flacco exposed to that Lions pass rush, or if it's Dylan Gabriel, they are going to go through Judkins. Kevin Stefanski loves to run the ball, so I love this play at over 13.5, and I would still play it even though a lot of books are now dealing 14.5.
RJ, Cowboys team total under.
Yeah, taking the Cowboys to score less than 20.5 points. They only had 14 against Chicago. Now they're playing an elite defense without Tyler Booker, without Cooper Beebe on the offensive line, in addition to the Lamb injury. I don't see them scoring many points in this game. So under 20.5 team total for the Cowboys is going to be my best bet.
All right, I'm going to get in and get out with some Thursday Night Football. I will lay the 1.5 with the Seahawks. For everything I mentioned earlier, the injuries much better for the Seahawks. They're getting Devin Witherspoon, secondary much healthier. Cardinals banged up on both sides of the ball. And if you're a trend person, I'm not, but we've got him. Murray, 2-8 in the last 10. He's lost 7 straight. Seattle, 7-10 past 7 road games. And the Seahawks right now are ranked number 1 in DVOA. And of course, defense much better, being healthier tonight. All right, guys, that was fun. Before we go, RJ, do you have a week 5 look ahead?
Yeah, I like the Raiders +6 against the Colts. The Colts are at, like I said, peak value. They have a tough road matchup this week. Raiders have an easier home matchup against the bad Bears defense. I could see this line coming in lower on the reopen on Sunday night. So Raiders +6, I think, is going to be a decent value for us.
Okay, and you can catch all of these plays. You see our best bets there, plus much more at SportsLine. Make sure you go check that out. These guys and I get them in early, so you can try to get ahead of the market moves. Do we have a promo code? Does anybody here have a promo code for yourselves?
Promo code WHITE at SportsLine.
Okay. Oh, and White and Winners. Promo code Winners for 60% off. I don't know if we have the graphic of the annual plan. That'll do it for this week foe NFL Pick show on the Early Edge. For Larry, Will, RJ, I'm Claudia. We'll see you next time.